Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Dog Talk. This is episode 55B.
I'm Cam and this is Julie.
Yes, this is the B'rit Hadashah, or the New Testament discussion of this week's Torah portion. And we are in, like Cam said, in the double portion. So we have Matot and Massei. Last year, and I've already posted it, I talked about Matot. This year we're going to concentrate in Massei.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
both will be covered.
Yes. So basically, this one is a lot to take in. It is Matthew 24 and 25.
Yeah.
That's a hefty one.
Together?
Yes.
That's just wrong.
Yeah. 24 and 25, along with Luke 21, 5 through 38, and Mark 13, 1 through 37. These are all the famous end-time eschatology type, I don't know, lessons, I guess you would say. So we're just going to dive right in. And first, I want to say that you'll see a lot of commentary that all of these are talking about the exact same things. But I'm going to walk you through, and show you that I really think it's a little bit different, and they might be different things. So last week we saw that he was 3 days from the crucifixion, and this week we are seeing that he's 2 days. So in 1 week we went 1 day.
1 day.
Yes. So like I said, 2 days out, and we see him with his disciples again at the temple teaching, and the Luke account seems to imply that he stays in the temple and teaches to everybody.
Okay.
The Matthew account we're going to talk about and the Mark account seem to be the same account, and he just takes he takes his disciples over to the Mount of Olives, and 4 of them approach him and ask him a little more detail about what he just taught on.
Right, so basically, they're in the temple, he gives the information to everybody, they walk off for a private session.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's just dive right in. In Luke, he makes a comment that there was a woman who was giving gifts, and she gave everything she had, and he was commenting on how she gave everything, so her gift is, that much greater.
Right.
And so a lot of the disciples start looking around at the buildings and the stones and the gold and the silver, and they say, but look at all these marvelous gifts that everyone's given them. Look how grand this place is.
Yeah, what good is that coin?
Right.
When you have this.
Yes, so they were admiring what they saw, right? Did we talk about that in your Torah portion? What they saw.
In trouble.
They were admiring what they saw, and Yeshua said, well, I tell you that there will not be one stone left upon another. This whole place is going to be destroyed, right? So then he begins to tell. So think about that. In Luke, he's talking in the temple area to all the disciples. Most of them probably live there, around the Judea and Jerusalem area. And he goes into great detail about when you see the armies start to surround the city of Jerusalem, take heed and get out of town. Right? In the Matthew and Mark version, it's when you see the abomination that causes desolation, get out of town. Okay, well, by the time that there was an abomination on the Temple Mount, it was too late to get out of town in 70 AD. That's why I really believe that these accounts are different. All right, so just real fast, going through the Luke account. In Luke 7, they say, when will this be? And what is the sign when this is about to take place? And he had just said that no stone will be. Right. All right, so 8 through 11 seems to be futuristic. Nation will rise against nation. The reign against reign, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be great earthquakes in various places, and scarcities of food, and deadly diseases, and there shall be horrors and great signs from the heaven. But before all this, so now he's going back to right now, in his time, but before all this, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you. And he goes on to tell them what it's going to be like, ending over in 20, and when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, and you know that the laying waste is near, then let those in Judea flee to the mountains. So then he's telling them to get out. Right.
So it's two different
things.
Escaping times.
Yes, 2 different escaping times going on. Now let's go to Matthew. he kind of starts this one the same way in 4. And Yeshua answered and said to them, take heed that no one lead you astray. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they shall lead many astray. You shall begin to hear of fightings and reports and fightings. See that you are not troubled, for these have to take place, but the end is not yet. Now he jumps ahead to the end. All right, so I'm going to stay in Matthew for the rest of the time. And I hope I can keep this short. So, Matthew 9, going kind of on the, this is futuristic. Here we go. So, Matthew 9 says, then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you, and you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. See, all nations.
Right.
This is the end when all the world is under the delusion and are going to hate those in Messiah. Then 10 through 12 talk about the many shall stumble. You know what I immediately thought about?
What?
I immediately thought about the church of Pergamos, where they're put the stumbling blocks.
Oh,
so many start to stumble because we know that there's a difference between many and few.
And they're stumbling because they were given the food to sacrifice or to bring in idols.
Yes.
They're being welcomed to bring in idols or taught how to do so.
That's right. And we see just in the next verse in 11, and many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. And because the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. Well, what have we had over, you know, as you see the rise of people going back to their roots and going back to what they should be doing, you see the rise of lawlessness.
Right,
and that's another telltale sign that we're getting so close.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, even the fact that we're aware that it's lawlessness.
Right. Yeah.
Before we weren't aware of it.
Yeah.
So how could these have meaning?
Right. Right.
We had to learn what
we thought
the
it was
law
just people
was
breaking the law.
in
I mean, we
order
really
to
did.
Even be able to understand
That's
the
right.
significance
Absolutely.
of this.
Absolutely. Then, you know, he goes on in 15 and says, when you see the abomination that's laid waste. And when I looked that up, the abomination that's laid waste is considered an idol. It was either Zeus or whatever the sun god of the day was. You know, when you see that in the set apart place, which is on the Temple Mount,
right?
You know, where the Holy of Holies would be, whether that's actually in the Holy Holies or if it's just in that place,
right?
We don't know yet. When you see,
it's to be seen,
right? But when you see it, no, it says, let the reader understand and get out of here. Don't even go grab your coat. Just leave, you know, because it's right there, right at the door.
And, you know, another interesting thing is that's in Jerusalem.
Yes.
That's not if you're in Illinois or
right,
if you're in California or Texas.
Right. It's for the people that are there in Jerusalem, which tells me that there will be many who are going to come to know Messiah living in Jerusalem because they're not even going to read this otherwise.
Right. Exactly. Oh, good point.
They wouldn't even be reading Matthew.
That's a really good point.
So the fact that he's telling us, you know, what it's going to be like says there's going to be a lot there and that they need to get out. And it's the same thing with the Luke version. Mm-hmm. The people who closed their ears to Yeshua when he was teaching in the temple, they're the ones that got caught in the middle of the siege and didn't leave. But the ones who heard him remembered his words, and they were gone by the time that the armies surrounded the city and took over. And one more thing, in 14, it says, and the good news of the reign shall be proclaimed in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end shall come. See, that's another reason we know this wasn't 70 AD, because while the disciples went out, they weren't to the entire world yet.
Right.
It hadn't covered the entire world. It had covered the known empire, Roman Empire, and maybe, you know, the outskirts of those nations at the time. But this is talking about, I love this, because it's talking about the reign of Elohim. What is the good news of the reign of Elohim?
Repent.
That's right. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That was the good news when Yeshua was here. That's what John started. And now you see that rise of, oh my gosh, we need to repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. We're seeing that come to surface again, you know, that pattern. Okay, I saw something really interesting. I've already explained it to Cam, so she said I need to be very specific in what I'm saying so you'll understand. So starting in 23, he begins to say, listen, you need to beware of false messiahs and false prophets. Many are going to come in my name saying, I am he. Many false prophets are going to arise and lead you astray. And then he says this very weird verse in 28. He says, for wherever the dead body is, there the vultures shall be gathered together. And I thought, oh my goodness. Okay, so right now we see the group of believers in Messiah, both Jew and Gentile, returning to Torah, coming together and begin to walk as a body, right? We're starting to see that, and it's only going to get stronger and stronger. Yes, we're kind of crawling. We're getting stronger and stronger because that's what a body does, right? It's birthed, and then it matures. Right. So the body, we're seeing that we belong here, and some of them are seeing they belong here, and so we're starting to all fit together. Anyway, so we're starting to mature, but this says the dead body, and I thought, that is Revelation, the Sardis church. In Revelation 3, he says to the Sardis church, and to the messenger of the assembly in Sardis write, he who has the 7 spirits of Elohim and the 7 stars says this, I know your works. You have a name that you're alive, but you are dead. So basically, because of their works, right, because of what they're not doing and doing, right, that defy his word, they're dead. So that's where the vultures, now what are the vultures? They're false teachers and false prophets. So those vultures just prey on that dead body, but they can't prey on the live body. Right. You know, it makes me think of Abraham. Remember, yes, remember Abraham was kind of the overseer of the sacrifices and shooed away the birds, right? Yeah. But while waiting on the Lord, right? You know, that's what we're supposed to be doing. Nope, that's a false prophet. Nope, that's a false teaching. No, that's false. But you won't know it if you're part of the dead body. The dead body. No, the vultures. They're just eating it up.
It's the same idea as before we understood, we didn't understand lawlessness.
Right.
So you're not going to understand the vultures being what they are. Right.
But that's also why you see people who are, in that dead body who are just, seeking the prophets. Seeking the prophet. What does the prophet have to say? Or what does this prophet have to say?
And
what's
that
prophet have to say?
Are really preying on them.
Yes, and they're taking advantage of them. Well, for the right amount of money, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Exactly. For the right, if you sow into mine, then
goes right to
I'm
Balaam.
sure the Lord will. Yes, that's for price.
And I love how Julie had said before, because the dead body is made up of individuals.
That's right.
As they see and start to recognize, just like we started to learn lawlessness.
We cross over from death into life.
Right. We can come out of that dead body and go over to the life side.
That's right.
And then that from a distance we can see
it's a much skinnier body.
Really fit.
Right. And just to reiterate that this is futuristic, in 29 it says, and immediately after the distress of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. And we see that these are prophecies from Isaiah 13:10, Ezekiel 32:7 and 8, Joel 2:10 and 31, and 3:15. And you also see it all through Revelation. I mean, you see it at the end of the sixth seal when it's open. The 5th bowl is poured out. All right, I just want to throw this out there. Food for thought. Okay, I have no idea. I don't know. Okay. All right, but I know we've all grown up hearing 1 Thessalonians 4:16 talk about the rapture. And this rapture is 7 years before the return of Yeshua. Right?
So it says.
So I'm just going to read 1 Thessalonians 4:16 and 17. It says, because the Master himself shall come down from heaven with a shout, with the voice of a chief messenger, and with the trumpet of Elohim, and the dead in Messiah shall rise first. Then we, the living who are left over, shall be caught away together with them in the clouds to meet the Master in the air, and so shall we be with the Master always. So then encourage one another with these words. Now I just want to read Matthew 24, starting with 30. And then the sign of the Son of Adam shall appear in the heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn. And they that see the Son of Adam coming on the clouds of the heaven with power and much esteem, and he shall send his messengers with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his chosen from the 4 winds, and from one end of the heaven to the other. Doesn't that sound a lot like the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out because for food for thought. There's also in Isaiah 60 verse 8, it speaks of that all of 60 is about the return of the exiles coming to Jerusalem in the Messianic kingdom. But there's this weird verse. It's verse 8, and it talks about who are these coming in the clouds that are flying like a dove through the window. And I thought, that almost fits with this too.
Yeah.
You know, it all seems to be kind of right when Yeshua comes back is my point.
Right.
You know, so that's just food for thought. I don't know. You know.
I'm right there. Yeah. I'm a thinking.
Yeah. So moving on, you've got the parable. Remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago with the fig tree. This is one of those places where if you understand that a fig tree is used to represent a generation, then it helps you to understand this. It says, and learn the parable from the fig tree. When its branches has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that the summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that he is near at the doors. Truly I say to you, this generation shall by no means pass until all this takes place. So we need to take all of these, and we need to understand that they're kind of like leaves coming out on a fig tree. You know, we need to see that, okay, it's getting close. The birth pains are getting closer and closer.
The season's coming.
Yes. And I learned something interesting, and I'm sure most of you know this, but, you know, when a child is birthed, the head remains pliable so it can be birthed. It's in two parts, two different parts, and it doesn't really meld together until after the birth, which I thought, oh my gosh, Jew and Gentile, it's not going to be until Messiah returns that we're going to, that the head, his head, which we're to represent Yeshua, right? You know, this side and this side are fully come together as one unit until after. So while we work beside them on this road, this narrow path, we will never fully be integrated physically until
we're in his kingdom.
Until we're in his kingdom.
And we really can't physically do that. Because even think about this. Even to be able to go into a temple or anything, he's the only one that can set up that will even permit us to come in.
Right.
So even to be able to function as a full body, like Isaiah 56 speaks, we can only do that with Messiah here reigning.
But I love it because you see the rabbis in Israel saying, we know it's near because all these Christians are starting to do Torah and take hold of Torah, and that's a sign of the times, right? And you see our side going, oh my gosh, look at how they're seeing Messiah. And even if they don't say they see Messiah, what they say and what they're doing shows that they're seeing Messiah. Yes, I love it. We're going to walk side by side until he comes back. Right, so now the rest of 24 talks about, you know, expect him to come. You know, he's going to come at an hour and a day that you don't expect him. So don't let it be like a thief in the night, right? To those who are in the light, it's not going to come as a surprise. We're going to know the season, and we're going to see all of these things. We're going to see the fig tree taking form.
And we're going to recognize it.
We're going to recognize it, right. So we need to pray daily that we are given eyes to see these things, and we can recognize it and not give off a lot of false alarms, because these false alarms are what a lot of people are sick of, and that's why they're like, whatever. Y'all been saying that since the beginning.
Well, hello, that's James.
Yes, the scoffers.
Yep, from the beginning. Yeah.
That's right. Now, just real quick, Matthew 25 has 3 parables. It's the 10 virgins. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to post a 119. They do a really good job at it.
Oh, yeah. They have a
real good job. There's no way, I don't even have enough time to go into it at all. But the 10 virgins, then you have the servants who are given the different talents according to their ability. So remember that, you know, just because I'm not doing what so-and-so's doing, or you're not doing what I'm doing, it's okay. We all have a part.
What are you going to do?
We're going to be, that's right. We're going to be judged on what we did with what we were given, not what someone else was given. And then you have the sheep and the goats, and that's a whole different teaching.
Yeah,
the sheep and the goats take you all the way to comes full circle to the very last thing that the disciples asked, and they said, what is the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Yeah.
So he ends answering their question about the sheep and the goats, because that, I believe, will take place at the very end.
Me too.
They go right into the everlasting punishment, and we don't see that until the end of the millennium.
Right.
So I believe that he really did take this all the way and answer all of their questions.
Yeah.
We just need eyes to see which fits with which question. All right, well, that's all I have for you. Gosh, there's so much I wish I could have talked about. But I do want to say
like
this.
part C, D, E, F, G.
Yes. So I really do want to reiterate the importance of reading it and understanding the different aspects of time, because if we have the attitude that all this has already happened, we don't need to worry about it, then we're going to miss a blessing to help others in the future or ourselves, you know. Yeah. So we need to be aware of that and to be mindful that all of this is just to tell us where we're at on the timeline, not so you can predict the future.
Yes.
I want to reiterate that too. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have for you. We will see you next week. It was very good. We will see you next week with episode 56. All right. We hope you have a fantastic week. Shalom.